This nibble originally aired on RSBANDB Update, episode 890, Dungeons and Demons. Enjoy.
Zamorak has his standard mechanics, the mechanics that are present at all times throughout the fight, regardless of whatever else you do, very straightforward. He's got magic and range attacks for you to prayer flick if you want. I think we've both been just camping magic prayer because, again, filthy casuals, just taking it easy. But through the first, majority of the fight, and especially below 100% Enrage, it's just, he has a melee push-ups he does. There's a couple of circles, one you need to stand in, one you need to kind of not stand on. Some stuff that is just very standard PVM. Stun him at this point, block some damage at this point with your favorite Resonance, Disruption Shield, Reflect, you name it. You can Crystal Shield, it all blocks it. Or Shield Dome, rather. Those kind of things. And then there's one mechanic that's unique, which probably should mention, is he throws you into kind of like a Shadow Realm type situation in Infernus, where you have to kill some demons and match your symbol with another one of the edict symbols around the room to get out.
And if you don't match the symbol correctly, you die. Yeah,
it does just insta-kill you. Or eliminate you, I think is what they've officially termed it for this one. Boss has too many insta-kills for them to throw up insta-kill overlays onto your character. Yeah. They just type an eliminated over you and call it done. It's hilarious.
Bye-bye.
With that said, though, the interesting part of this fight is that equally spaced throughout the fight, there are 6 sub-phases where you need to charge up the edicts of Guthix around the room. Each one of these edicts has a positive and negative effect, and the first one you activate will get an additional stack every time you activate an additional one. So the effects are reasonably small. They're impactful, but they're not huge at 1 or 2 stacks. But when you get up to the last edicts, where you've got 4 or 5 stacks on some of these, they significantly change the way the fight is done. So you can, by changing the order of the edicts, you change very much kind of the amount of damage you take. You change the kind of a number of unique mechanics throughout the fight, pretty much all of which are actually new boss mechanics, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And the interesting part about this for me is that not only are they debuffs that hurt you, is that you can also choose to use them in a way to help yourself and buff yourself with this.
Right.
Which you and I haven't been doing that. We've just been focused on on hitting the ones that are going to be the most annoying and putting those later on in the cycle, like the execute one and such.
Yeah. So the PVME has a recommended order to this that I know, Bear, you said you've been following. Shane and I, hilariously, without looking up any of this stuff, just knowing what the effects of the edicts were, crafted an order that is almost exactly the opposite, a complete mirrored version of what the PVME is telling you. And part of that has to do with the last phase.
I can get into it later when we get into the last phase.
Oh, because
let's just talk through it, because we're talking the mechanics
at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So take him through our order.
Well, Bears, talk through why the PVME has the opposite order, because that's a cool thing.
So P7, which gets enacted at 100% Enrage, brings you back to the realm area where you need to kill a demon, and then the 6 runes are out there, and you need to kill 1 rune per person in the group in an order that he gives you. In solo, you actually need to kill 2. But you kill those 2, and while you're killing them, he gains HP that will hit you. So if you kill it quickly, you'll maybe get hit for 20,000 damage. So before you get hit for that 20,000, you need to deal 100,000 damage. You have about 3 or 4 abilities, and you can extend that with the Vit Pot to maybe 5 or 6 abilities, and then you still will die after that. So the reason that gets changed is, as Staxy was saying, each of these edicts give you a buff or a debuff. So that helps in P1 through 6, but then P7, they get flipped. So, for example, the first edict, which is the one that I always go to first, makes Zammy hit you twice, and it gives you extra adrenaline per attack that you deal. So you get that early on, and you get it up to 6 stacks. By the time, once you get to phase 7, it's down to 1 stack. And the edict that you charged the 6th now has 6 stacks. So you got to completely flip the order. So, for example, Taxi was saying 5 and 3 are the 2 most annoying ones. No, sorry.
Or the easiest
6
ones,
and 2 are the
generally
most.
speaking, yeah.
Yeah.
6 and 2,
so
6 and 2 are the most
last.
scary ones, yeah. So we've been doing those
Yeah,
last.
but you want to kind of do those. You want to do those more in the middle for mine because you don't want that negative impact in P7 as much.
Because we've been avoiding them. Edict 2 is a great example of this. Edict 2 is very powerful. Probably one of the most powerful things that they've ever introduced in the game, where it's the twin effects of this. The benefit is that your abilities come off cooldown 20% sooner per stack, which means that your abilities can be basically always up, which, especially when you've a lot, like Bears was saying, an extra adrenaline going on as well, that like having your abilities up all the time is massive. But the negative effect of Edict 2 is that you get executed if you fall below a certain health threshold per stack. And so if you have that at like 6 stacks, you can't fall below like 30% health, which, since the boss has a number of mechanics that do large damage that you then have to heal back or resonance from, means that having high stacks of Edict 2 could be really dangerous. Conversely to that, like Bears is saying, you take massive damage in this phase 7. So you want to have really low stacks, but the stacks flip. So if you did Edict 2 last, like Shane and I have been doing on our normal mode runs, but if you did that in P7, you'd then have 6 stacks of that. So you couldn't fall below 30% health, which is terrifying. So that's what Bears is saying. You probably want to do that closer to the middle because it's a really powerful buff to have in the like fight phase. But then when you get to P7, you don't want that to be really high stacked. So it's a really interesting kind of dynamic that they did with these positive and negative effects. And you can look those up and read them. We don't need to read them to you, but they've done really cool things like giving you a ton of extra adrenaline, like doing these execute mechanics, right? They're having stuff that's hitting through prayer like Varric does partially, right? Or prayer and defensives. Like, they've got a number of these that are really unique effects for getting adrenaline back after you ult. Like, it's stuff that is like usable and makes sense in our combat system, but is not been in any kind of boss mechanics before. So they just tucked a bunch of stuff in there, and they gave you the freedom to like play around with how powerful you want each of those effects
it's
to
making
be.
your own boss.
Kind of.
Yeah.
It's like Glacier, but everything kind of sucks.
Yeah. And for the record, the rune order we did was 5, 3, 4, 1, 6, 2. You guys can look up what all those mean. And Bears, what's the PVME one you were doing?
Opposite.
I was doing 1, 2, 6, 4, 5, 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So a little
it's
bit
a
of
little
jumbling,
confusing, but I got used to it. Yeah.
Okay.
One last thing I want to mention on P7 is I don't know how many people were around during Telos release, but P5 for Telos was the same sort of thing where, no one really knew how to do it. Everyone kind of struggled. I know in the future P7 is going to be significantly easier. Like, people will find a way to... Yeah. We haven't gotten to that point yet, but...
I've heard some really interesting things this week, because it's all about being able to do damage reduction while doing a ton of damage, right? And so I've heard some really interesting things where like Hellhounds are getting used because of the 20% damage reduction they offer.
The whole week.
Yeah, you camp Hellhounds for P7. Like, it's stuff that you never would have used before. By the way, Hellhounds were like 120k each on Monday. If anybody saw that, you could make some hot GP.
So,
and not only for this, but one of the achievements was there too in the dungeon.
Yes, I got that one on accident.
Oh yeah, you had to have a Hellhound on. Yeah. Oh, you got lost and went and killed that mini boss?
No, I ran out of dungeoneering tokens. I'm like, I'll just go kill some.
Oh, that's right. There's we should mention there's lucky charms for the dungeon. You can buy them at Brilthawk's at the Demon Hammer.
Which is interesting that we didn't mention that sooner, because that's something you and I have been forgetting.
Clearly, that ironically, yes.
You can find full episodes of RSBANDB Update right here on this YouTube channel. If you found this video useful or just enjoyed it, like and subscribe, or leave a comment.